Welcome, everyone, to the Spring 2022 Employing U.S. Vets Conference. I am George Altman. I'm Managing Director of Vets Indexes, and this is the first time in 2.5 years that we've been able to hold this conference in person. Thank you all for coming so much. It's great to see everybody here in person. We also, for the first time, have an online audience as well. So a lot more folks, we've got a huge turnout in this room and a lot more folks watching online. So thank you all for coming and participating. We know many of you all watching online may have organizational travel restrictions that prevented you from coming, but appreciate everyone's participation. This is actually our first ever hybrid conference where we are holding it essentially both in person and online. COVID brought a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges, but also, some new opportunities. And one of those was showing us how well this conference can work online. So really excited to have this as our first hybrid conference. We really appreciate everyone coming and participating. First, before we get things started, I'd like to ask all of the veterans in the audience to please stand. And let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you all so much. Bit of housekeeping. Most of you probably have already figured this out, but if you need the restrooms, they are in the hallway to the back. Walk all the way towards the mirror. Men's room is on the left. Ladies' room is on the right. And the refreshments room, I think most of you have already seen. It's the one directly behind us. One last bit of housekeeping. We absolutely encourage you all to ask questions of our panelists. We intend to save the last, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of each panel for questions. So when the Q&A session comes, if you're here in person, please just raise your hand and we will come around with a mic. If you're watching online, we do want your questions as well. Just enter them into the chat and we will get them answered, hopefully. So first, a very special thank you to our sponsors. Without them, none of this would have been possible, and their support makes a really big difference. And I'll say, if you find this event to be worthwhile, particularly if you've participated in some of our previous events and also found those worthwhile, and you're able to step up as a sponsor in the future, we would really appreciate that. Really makes a difference. So thank you to our sponsors for the Spring 2022 Employing U.S. Vets Conference. They are at the gold level, Mass Mutual; at the silver level, Passport, Fiserv, Spectrum, and USAA; at the bronze level, Booz Allen Hamilton and ETF Global. Our morning lounge sponsor is Comcast NBC Universal. Our afternoon lounge sponsor is Oracle, and our vet friends, AmeriVet Securities, Raytheon Technologies, Robertson Ryan, and Werner Enterprises. Thank you all very much. So we have a very busy day ahead of us. Today's speakers include some of the biggest voices in the veteran employment space. Really looking forward to this agenda. And let me just kind of do a little quick table setting for you all, give you an idea what to expect today. Because this conference is a little different from some of the other veteran employment events you may have attended. A lot of those tend to be focused on reaching out to and educating transitioning veterans themselves. But our conference is a little different. What we're here to do is to talk to really start a discussion among leaders of veteran programs at organizations throughout the country where you all can share best practices, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked. And in the end, the result should be a more friendly, more welcoming, more knowledgeable and hospitable employment environment for veterans. So we hope that you leave today's event with a kind of long list of tips, advice, action items, things you can take back to your organizations and implement improvements for your veteran employees who are already at your organization and the ones who will be joining you after you recruit them. So let me give you guys a very quick rundown of the day's agenda. After my opening remarks, we're going to bring on Jonathan Kleck. He served 25 years as a Navy SEAL, is now the director of Greencastle Consulting, and has a great story to share. Really looking forward to hearing from him. Our first panel of the day is going to feature representatives from 4 organizations recognized with the most prestigious awards in our Vets Indexes Employer Awards program, 5-star employers. And they're going to talk about the policies and practices, especially related to veteran and military connected retention and development. So looking forward to that panel as well. Then from 10:30 to 11, we have a morning break and networking session sponsored by Comcast, NBC Universal. The next panel, sponsored by Fiserv, is going to discuss military veterans as entrepreneurs. Following that, we have a panel at noon, sponsored by AmeriVet Securities, and that is focused on unemployment and underemployment of female veterans in particular, folks that are, I think, a little too often overlooked. So I want to make up for that. Our lunch and afternoon networking session follows that. It's sponsored by Oracle. Next is a panel sponsored by Spectrum discussing how employers can partner with VSOs, veteran service organizations, to get some help improving their veterans program. And finally, the last panel of the day, sponsored by Fastport, is going to talk about using marketing and branding to kind of spread the word about what you guys are doing for veterans. And then, very important public service announcement, we have a full open bar for our cocktail hour at 4. So you are going to want to stick around to the end of the day to take advantage of that. Absolutely. But before we get to all that and move on to the rest of our agenda, I want to discuss kind of 2 quick items that are, I think, very groundbreaking and useful for you all in the veteran employment space. One of these you've already heard me talk about a little bit. That is the Vets Indexes Employer Awards. We're going to hear shortly from our panel of Vets Indexes 5-star employers sharing their best practices. But before we get to that, let's talk about what it means to be a Vets Indexes 5-star employer. You get that designation by participating in the Vets Indexes Employer Awards and really distinguishing yourself as an organization with what you're doing for veterans. You really have to stand out from the pack to get that 5-star award. The survey and recognition program, it is open to everyone. Companies, large and small, publicly traded, privately held, nonprofit organizations, government agencies and departments. Bottom line, if you're an organization for whom hiring veterans is important, this is designed for you. We also need to emphasize this entire process is free from start to finish. There's a few different veteran employer evaluations out there, and some of them have different policies on this. We think it's important that the Vets Indexes Employer Awards are something that can only be earned through what organizations do for veterans. It can't ever be bought through licensing fees. So if you are recognized with an award, important to emphasize, the logo associated with that award is yours to use, free of charge, no licensing fees. We think it's important that, again, this is something that's earned and not bought. The program is also confidential. I want to emphasize we ask for some detailed information that I think a lot of organizations would rightly consider proprietary and would not want their competitors to have granular knowledge of. We completely understand and respect that. And for that reason, there's only 3 pieces of information we will ever publish about you from the survey. And that is if you're recognized with an award, the award level you're recognized at, the name of your organization, and your organization's logo. That is it. We take confidentiality very seriously. We also think it's important that these awards are objective and data-focused, make meaningful comparisons between organizations. There's a lot of different approaches to this. I've seen some veteran employer evaluations where they kind of ask you to write an essay, and whichever essay they like the best gets the best award. That's one approach. I think it's better to have, data-driven analysis and objective views, and that's how we constructed the survey. And I think as a result, the surveys really caught fire. We had a good opening year. The first year, we increased our number of responses by about 20%. In the second year, and I think a lot of people have really taken notice. So really hope you all can participate in the future if you have yet to. We announced our 2022 Vets Indexes Employer Awards honorees last month. You can see the full slate on our website. The next survey is opening up in November, but you can sign up for it right now. Just register at vetsindexes.com/employer-awards. Again, vetsindexes.com/employer-awards. And finally, the last program I wanted to highlight is our Veteran Employment Benchmarking Service. Now, this is kind of an outgrowth of the survey that we think will help your organizations make data-driven decisions as you're deciding where and how to allocate your limited resources that you can dedicate to your veterans program. Essentially, what the service does is takes all of the data that we get from the Vets Indexes Employer Awards and creates a benchmarking report specific to your organization, which allows you to see at both a summary level and a granular question by question, even sub question by sub question level, exactly how you compare to our overall pool of respondents, your peer organizations with a similar size and structure, and the practices established by our most highly rated 5-star employers. So we think that could be very useful. We are right now in the midst of updating and improving that tool with information from the 2022 survey. Probably going to take another month or so to finish that process up. So please look out for follow-up in May or June about that. Plan to hold a webinar with kind of a live demo, live run-through of the tool. So looking forward to that. And that is the end of my opening remarks.